So that's all recording. Great. Guys, welcome to tonight's webinar. In-flight emergencies is our topic tonight. A really, really great webinar on tap for you. Kind of the grand finale of this underground aviation seminar that we've been doing. I have a little note up top you guys can see. Again, this presentation is going to contain videos. I'm going to show you videos of actual in-flight emergencies. So to best optimize for that, if you have any programs open, Outlook, Mac Mail, anything that's constantly pinging the internet, I would close those down so you can get the best stream possible. It's not going to be perfect. The audio may be off a little bit, but you're going to get the gist of it. And you're really, really going to enjoy it, most importantly. So that is that, guys. Few little ground rules real quick before we get too terribly far. I cannot hear you. I cannot see you. So if there's kids screaming, dogs barking at your house, doesn't matter. However, when it happens here at the Schappert house, well, you're sure going to hear it over here. So, but that's a-okay as far as that goes. What else? You and I communicate using your handy dandy GoToWebinar control panel. There is a box called questions. If you're on the iPad or an Android device, it is just a little question mark that you can tap. And you can type in there, and those questions will come up. I have this coming up on a separate screen. We also have instructors extraordinaire, Larry Diamond and Mark Hudson, who you guys have probably seen in the Good Pilot magazine, the #1 free professional and trade iPad magazine in the Apple newsstand right now. You may have seen them in there. They'll be diving in there, answering some of your questions, and they're already doing that as we speak. So you can ask those as we go, and we'll open it up at the end for more Q&A. This is being recorded. I know a lot of you guys are asking. Wade, I see you just asked about Wednesday's webinar. All the Secret to Perfect Landings and my 5 steps for decision making webinars are already up on YouTube. They're up on MzeroA.com. They're up on the MzeroA.com Facebook. They're up on Ground School Academy. They're all there for you guys to check out. So that's that. So cool. I can't think of anything else, guys. I'm going to grab a sip of tea, and then we're going to get started here. So real quick, I know a lot of you guys may have come from, different places and maybe aren't familiar with me and MzeroA.com. So I know I've been doing it the past 2 evenings. I'm going to do just a quick little spiel about who I am, kind of what we do. We run, when I say we, I'm talking about my lovely wife, myself, Larry, Mark, and too many others to be mentioned, run MzeroA.com, which is really a flight training community on the internet. We really kind of pioneered the mounting of cameras externally on aircraft for the purpose of flight training. Now, this is something they were doing that previously in aerobatics and that sort of stuff, but not for the purpose of flight training. So not only do I show you a steep turn from inside the cockpit, but I want to show it to you from outside the cockpit as well. These videos led to us having the #1 rated online ground school, which a lot of you guys have been signing up for all this week. And I just can't thank you enough for that. We're very, very blessed to have you guys in there, and very, very excited to start working with you guys and learning more about you guys. We have 8 books out. This is 6 of them. Pass Your Private Pilot Check Ride, an Instrument Pilot Check Ride, Your Examiner's Favorite Test Prep Questions. That's an ebook and audiobook. The FAR Aim in Plain English. I literally take the regulations that you need to know. I take that big 1,200-page FAR Aim and break it down into about 150 pages and take those regulations and break them into plain conversational English, what you really need to know, and nothing extra. Inflight Emergencies, which is the book based on this very presentation I'm going to be doing for you this evening. And of course, the Pilot's Handbook of Aeronautical Knowledge, the Airplane Flying Handbook, which I was very blessed to rewrite with the permission of the FAA and really update it. It's such a classic book, but written back in the 80s when microwave landing systems were the thing. Now GPS is the thing, and we rewrote it to reflect that. Jeffrey was asking earlier when we were about 15 minutes out from the webinar about the aviation seminar at sea. And we are going to be doing our 3rd annual one here pretty soon. So Jeffrey and guys, I'll be keeping you up to date on that. Very, very exciting trip. We're thinking probably late later in the year, late November, early December. That's kind of the time frame I'm thinking. That's a great, that's an easy on the wallet time to cruise, and it's still very warm down in the Caribbean. So aviationseminaratc.com to learn more and kind of stay on top of that. You're wondering how we do all this stuff? Well, none of it is possible without our wonderful team I told you about. That's myself and my lovely wife, Ashley, who's the real brains behind everything. This picture was taken at the world-renowned Schappert farm. Just world-renowned because I said it is, I guess. You ready for this? The dogs are Pedo and Magneto. The goats are Prop, Rudder, and Strut. We have quite the aviation-themed household. Ashley has told me I'm not in charge of naming children, so I had to get all my good naming out with naming all the animals. Just looking to get more animals so I can think of more great names. I might need some of your guys' input on that. So what we're going to talk about today, guys, is a topic very near and dear to my heart, and that is the topic of in-flight emergencies. It's the unexpected that we worry about. There are so many different scenarios, so many different things that we could possibly prepare for. How can we prepare for all of them? Well, I'm going to share with you in this presentation some different emergencies. I'm going to share with you actual videos from these emergencies. We're going to talk about what the pilots did right, what they did wrong, what could have been done better, how they did it, and really diagnose everything and kind of take a look at it. So that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to cover an engine failure in flight. I'm flying along and my engine quits. All right. I'm going to share with you some really easy ways to make the most important landing in your flying career a great one. All right. We're also going to talk about a situation that really I prefer to never find myself in. And that's an engine failure on takeoff. I'm low, I'm slow, I'm in a nose up high attitude, and now you're going to take away my primary means of thrust. Not a good situation to find myself in. And that's something we're going to talk about in greater detail with that as well, an engine failure on takeoff. And we're going to talk about preparing for the unexpected, because you know what? Nobody goes out one day and expects to have a in-flight emergency. Hopefully, learning from last night's webinar, we would have never made that decision in the first place if we knew something was wrong. So preparing for the unexpected is what we're going to chat about. Guys, you're going to want to have your notepads ready. I'm going to give you some great little new acronyms, some great little tidbits. You're going to want to write this stuff down. You're going to want to have something to drink. And like I said, there's some video involved in this, which means you're going to want to also make sure that you've got some headphones or speakers or something like that working. So let's dive right into it real quick, guys. Let's start with an engine failure in flight. Now, I'll play this video here in just a second. And again, I'm telling you, I've tested this a lot today. The audio and the video may not match up perfectly. That's not life or death important. What's important is what transpires in this video. These are two gentlemen flying to Sun and Fun. Okay, they are flying into Sun and Fun. This is when the company Data Toys, who really, in my mind, was first to come out with in-cockpit cameras. The company had just come out, so they had installed this. They figured, man, let's film our flight down to Sun and Fun. Won't that be really cool to do? And well, they caught a little more coolness than I prefer in a flight. I mean, these are two guys doing what a lot of us dream to do one day, and that's to fly into Sun and Fun or to fly into Oshkosh, and they have an engine failure in flight. They do a lot of good things. You'll see and you'll hear they kind of attempt a restart and try some different things. But we're going to kind of watch this and we're going to dissect it here in just a second. So I'm going to go ahead and play that video. Let me turn the volume up just a hair. You should hear my little Mac guy quacking. So I'm turning that video up, making sure it's not feeding back or anything crazy. So let's go ahead and, real quick, I had to bleep out all the good words they said. So, sorry for having to edit it up a little bit. All right, let's go ahead and watch this video real quick. Engine failure in flight on the way to Sun and Fun.
Watch swing, watch swing, watch swing. Watch swing, watch swing, watch swing.
I just love how like at the end they like are going past like a Taco Bell as they're going down the road. You can see the cars passing them and everything else. And again, hopefully that kind of halfway played okay for you. It looked like it was kind of skipping a bit and the audio was a hair bit off, but you get the gist of it. An engine failure in flight, and Steve asked a great point. Why were they kind of flying low as it was? Well, if they're in the town of Winter Haven, Steve, Lakeland's just the next town over, which is where Sun and Fun's at. And that NOTAM that they issue for when you're flying, and they have you coming in kind of low as it is already, I'd imagine they were pretty far into the process of actually flying into Sun and Fun. So engine failure in flight. Now, let me ask you guys this. Let me ask you a question. What did these guys do right? And maybe as a follow-up question, what could they have done better? I mean, listen, they walked away from it. Everything is A-okay. What did you like about it? What did they do right? And what could they have done better? And again, you and I communicate using that GoToWebinar control panel underneath the questions box. So hopefully we can communicate there. I think you're right. Steve, you're right. Trying to restart again. Absolutely not. Yeah, nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. Kyle, awesome point. Kyle said, good job picking a landing spot and sticking with it, not changing your mind. Oh, and I'm going to share that in just a second here. That is huge, Kyle. You are spot on. Wes said, good communication between both of them. Yeah, we always had the flying pilot on the left, the pilot on the right was kind of helping them to find a spot, but at the same time, not overbearing, like freaking out on them or anything else like that. I think that was good. Conley brings up an interesting point too about not doing a checklist, and we're going to talk about that here in just a bit. My argument to that, Conley, would be, did they have time to do a checklist? They were so low that in my mind, the first thing that I'm saying is fly the airplane. And what I think that they did best through everything, similar to what Donald and Andrew said, is they stayed calm. And who else said it? Philip said it. But they most importantly continued to fly the airplane. So for my note takers, I want you to write this down. I want you to write down acronym style ABCs, because I am going to teach you guys the ABCs of an emergency. It's really that simple. The moment that engine quits, I want you to first, A, airspeed. What is my best glide speed? And I want to trim for that. Like I shared in the Secret to Perfect Landings webinar we did 2 days ago, which, by the way, the recording's up of that if you haven't seen that already. I said that trim is a poor man's autopilot. Trim, in this case, is not only a poor man's autopilot, it's your best friend. Because once you've trimmed up for that airspeed, your best glide speed, you're free to conduct other things like looking for a landing area, conducting your checklist. We're going to talk about that as we get further along in the acronym. A is for airspeed. I want to stay aloft as long as possible. I want to be able to glide as long as possible because I want to be able to attempt a restart. I want to be able to communicate my issue. I want to be able to possibly run through a checklist, time permitting. Airspeed is king in this, and I've got to nail my best glide speed. You guys need to know your aircraft's best glide speed and have that down pat. Philip, I'm going to share your comment here on this next one. The B in our acronym is for best landing area. Keeping in mind that your best landing area might be behind you or below you. I can't remember who said it, but somebody was talking about at the very beginning of this, the best, found a great field was 5 miles away. How do I judge that? Well, first and foremost, we as pilots, and really just humans in general, in an emergency situation, we tend to get tunnel vision. We just want to look at what's right out in front of me, and we forget about behind us and below us. And myself as a flight instructor, what I like to do is I'll have a student fly and I'll put like a beautiful private airstrip, literally dead smack underneath us, or maybe just a little bit behind the tail, where they really would have to almost do a shallow bank to kind of look for it. And I'll smoothly pull that throttle back to idle and say, your engine just quit. What are you going to do now? Well, they execute their A, and then they get to the airspeed part, and they go B for best landing area, and all they're doing is they're looking outside. They're looking out front. They get this tunnel vision, and they end up going for a really a field that's like loaded with cattle or horses and fences and power lines and all this sort of stuff. I kind of turn around and say, man, don't forget behind you and below you, because sometimes that is where your best landing area is. Don't forget it. It's much easier just to steep spiral on down, which we'll talk about in emergency descent a little bit later as well, than it is to try to force that glide issue. Keep it in mind, guys, what's the wind doing? Am I going to be going right into the wind? Am I going to have a tailwind? How is that going to affect my glide ratio as well? My best landing area. Philip brought up such an interesting point. Let me see if I can find it again. Philip said, were they aware of the telephone poles? That is a problem with landing on a road, Philip, especially a road like that. That looked like just a little residential kind of road. I mean, there were shops. There's a Taco Bell, for goodness sakes. There definitely was power lines there. My options, if I'm going to land on a road, it's going to be like an interstate or something like that. But then that brings up the question, do I land with traffic? Do I land against the traffic? I'm effectively traveling the same speed as some of the traffic on the interstate. So I kind of like that aspect of it a little bit better, landing with traffic, but against traffic. Maybe they can spot me a little bit easier and get out of my way if they see me coming. Ultimately, I'm looking for an airport, or I'm looking for a great field. See, here in Florida, we're so spoiled. There's so many horse farms. There's just so many farms in general that we can put it down in. Whereas some of you guys in more residential areas might not have that same luxury. So knowing where your best landing area is, I'll never forget, I did some flying up in Massachusetts for a while. I was flying out of the New Bedford airport, and we were practicing engine out. I was working on my commercial pilot certificate at the time, and we practiced an engine out, and I saw this little red field underneath me, and it looked flat and everything was great. And I said, man, I'm going for that field. My instructor said, are you crazy, Jason? That's a cranberry bog. I said, what? I said, what? I'm from Florida. What is a cranberry bog? He said, you try to land in there, you're going to flip in the airplane. You don't land or try to do an emergency landing into a cranberry bog. I didn't even know what a cranberry bog was. Now I've seen pictures of people in their waders up to their waist in water, I guess it is, cranberry juice. Who knows what it is? You don't land in the cranberry box, is what I learned. You've got to learn your best landing area for your geographic region. Yeah, Philip brought up another great point. Golf courses. Hey, man, look for the par 5. I think our buddy, my buddy Steve from Denellen, who's on this webinar, Steve, that's the place to go. Steve's a big golfer. That's why I said Steve would have an emergency, land on the par 5, and probably have his clubs with him and start playing. That's just the kind of guy Steve is, though. So I don't mean to pick on you, Steve. You're an easy target sometimes. So A was for airspeed. B is for our best landing area. And then the C in our acronym is for our checklist. But guys, checklist is time permitting. Let's go back to that video. Let's think about that video we just watched. Time permitting. What do you think those guys were at? Maybe 1,500 feet, maybe 2,000 feet. But I'd be willing to bet they're more in the 1,500 to 2,000, under 2,000 for sure. They weren't up there very long. I didn't speed that video up by any means, but I know they were bigger guys, but there sure wasn't much of a glide ratio there. They were on the ground. That was only a 3-minute clip, so they were on the ground pretty quick. They were certainly under 2,000 feet. They didn't have time for a checklist. They did, though, what was most important in my eyes, which is to fly the airplane. When all else fails, guys, simply fly the airplane. That is the smartest thing you could ever do. Now, in the event you do have time for a checklist, I don't want you fumbling around with your actual paper checklist. You are about to make the most important landing of your flying career. The last thing I want you doing is fumbling around with your checklist. You understand what I'm saying? What I want you to have instead is I want you to memorize a flow check. And let me give you an example. I fly mostly Cessna aircraft, so Piper guys, this all works the same relatively. It's just going to be a little bit different. So let's say we're flying a Cessna 172. In the event of an engine failure, I'm going to go airspeed, trim for my airspeed, best landing area, got it picked out. Important too, going back a slide, not only pick your best landing area, but stick with your best landing area. Nothing is worse than when I get a student pilot up there who goes, oh, I'm gonna pick that field. They start heading towards that field. They go, no, I like this field better. And then, oh, no, and they keep zigzagging. You know what happens? You don't end up making any of the fields. Best field, best landing area, and stick with it. And then on C, the checklist, assuming I have time, I'm gonna do a flow check. I'm gonna try to troubleshoot is all it is. I'm gonna start on the floor. Fuel selector valve is on both. Make sure it's on. Maybe switch it to the left tank, switch it to the right tank. See if anything different happens. Leave it on both, whatever. Come back up, check my mixture, verify mixture's rich. Coming across to my carb heat, turn my carb heat on. Maybe I grab some carb ice. It was something that simple. I would hope it was something that simple. I'm still gonna land the airplane and double check though if that engine restarts. Turn that carburetor heat on. Nothing happens. Working my way all the way across, coming across, checking my primer, verify primer's in and locked, checking my ignition, making sure I didn't just bump the magnetos, something silly like that. It's on. Let's try to crank it again. Crank. Darn it. It's not starting up again. Something's wrong. Okay, now I'm squawking 7700. Now I'm jumping on 121.5 or I'm jumping on a frequency where someone's going to listen to me. Again, the FAA came out not a long time ago, about a year ago, saying that 121.5 is effectively no longer being monitored by them. Now, I've talked to a lot of guys who are in ATC, and they said, listen, it's not required, Jason, but we still monitor 121.5. All the airliners have what's called a third comm. Wouldn't it be nice to have 3 radios? A third comm where they listen to 121.5 there as well. The Civil Air Patrol still uses 121.5, but it's just not as prominent as it used to be, is what I'm getting at. So I would try 121.5. That's not a bad place to start. And then maybe jump on flight following. some sort of approach or departure controller. I just want you to talk to somebody to convey your emergency. So in the event that your most important landing of your life you're about to make isn't the best one, somebody's going to come looking for you. All right. Knock out that checklist. All right. A flow check. I don't want you fumbling around with that checklist when you're about to make that most important landing of your flying career. Memorize a flow check. That is one check that should be memorized. All right. And now I want to pose another question to you guys. I didn't make a slide for this, but I'm just going to ramble for a second. When choosing a landing area, what is something you guys look for? Like, would you prefer, you always see the argument, would you prefer water or trees? Are you looking for a road? Are you looking for a field? Let's assume an airport is not an option. Okay. It's definitely going to be an off-airport landing. What kind of stuff are you guys looking for? Now, there is no right or wrong answer here. Everybody's going to be different geographically. Like I share with you about the cranberry bogs. We don't have those in Florida. In Florida, we've got horse farms, at least in the Ocala area. I'm looking for a horse farm. When I was up in Jacksonville, it was literally you go to the beach. And unfortunately, that's a true soft field landing. And you go for a part where it's not too terribly busy. And that's just where you go. Jacksonville is just too dense, of a population. So what about you guys? Assuming an airport's not an option. Yeah, Kyle, long field. Absolutely. Andreas, yeah, another field. Absolutely. Ken, interesting point. Parking lots. Sure. Listen, I one thing that worries me a lot, I'm not a big fan of flying at night. If I had an engine failure at night, I am very limited as to where I can go. My options are roads and parking lots at night, and of course airports. Yeah, Robert, you bring up a really good point about turning on the ELT switch to on instead of auto if the plane has one. Yeah. Anyone who's ever turned an ELT on, though, knows the ELT makes a screeching noise. It's, of course, just going to add to the anxiety in the cockpit. But other Robert, my buddy Robert C. from South Florida, desolate road, field, trees, probably in that order. Yeah, I agree with you. Totally agree with you. Michael said, just make sure fields haven't been worked up. Yeah, you're right about that. Anyways, tilling, plowing. Kent brought up interesting point. He said, I'm hoping for trees. I'm a terrible swimmer. Let me share something with you. I did this same presentation probably 2-3 years ago at Sun and Fun. I think it was my first time doing it at Sun and Fun. And a gentleman in the crowd said one of the smartest things I had ever heard, and I still teach it to this day. In the event that you are going to land in the water, and we have a lot of water in Florida, we go to the Bahamas quite a bit. In the event you are ditching in the water, and I have no problem with ditching in the water. I'm a pretty strong swimmer. The only thing that worries me about water is impacting the water and staying conscious. And listen, I don't like talking about gloom and doom, but this is real stuff. This gentleman taught me, said something so smart that if you know you are going to be landing in water and you've got time, what you do is take your shoes off. Because number one, you're not going to need your shoes swimming. In fact, your shoes are going to slow you down swimming. And then what you do is you open the door and wedge your shoe in the corner of the door closest to the hinge. So that way your door stays open. Because the worst part about ditching in the water is sinking too quickly and having that pressure and not being strong enough to open up that door. So take off your shoe and wedge it. And when he told me that, I said, that is the smartest thing. And I just wanted to share that with you guys. That's something I've been sharing for quite some time. But very, very smart point to think about there in relation to water sort of stuff. All right. So that's that, guys. That is the ABCs of an emergency. A is for airspeed. What is my best glide speed? B is for my best landing area. Keeping in mind that best landing area might be behind me or below me. And then C is for my checklist. Checklist again is time permitting. Do I have time to knock out my checklist? And if so, it's a flow check, and then I could verify on the paper one, but I'm gonna do that flow check first and foremost, assuming I have time. Now, let's get away from engine failures for a second. We're gonna come back to that, and I want to chat with you guys a little bit about planning for the unexpected. This is a really, really it's a funny clip, as if an emergency could be slightly humorous. To see how this pilot handles this situation, it's just audio. It's audio and text. And I have a funny feeling when you watch it live, the audio and text match up. The audio and text probably isn't going to match up again because we're trying to stream this over multiple different types of internet connections. But you'll be able to hear it, okay? And that's all that matters. All there is audio. The text isn't so important. It's just so you could maybe read it as it was happening, but that's okay. This is a gentleman who is basically a brand spanking new private pilot. And he decides that he is going to charter a King Air to take he and his family over to the Bahamas. Now, he's not the pilot of the King Air. It's a King Air 200. It's a single pilot plane, but just became a pilot, and says, listen, we're going to charter this airplane. We're going to go to the Bahamas. We're going to go on a great vacation. Charters a pilot. They think everything is going to be great. And the pilot passes away in flight. So now here on this airplane, on this King Air 200, is this low time. When I say low time, I'm talking brand spanking new private pilot. The only pilot on board of this King Air 200, and no pressure, but your wife and kids are on board, and you've got to get the airplane on the ground. Now, let's be honest with ourselves real quick. We as pilots are a very sick bunch of people. And this is what I mean. Anyone here ever been sitting on an airliner and thinking, I wonder if they came on the speaker and asked if there were any pilots on board, and I raised my hand, could I save the day? Has anyone ever had that thought when you're sitting on an airliner? Man, I could be the hero and save the day. I know I could fly this airplane if I had to. Listen, I can tell you just about every time I get on an airliner, I have that thought. Yep, Paul's being honest. Connolly, Andreas, yeah, absolutely. Steve's being honest. We've all had that thought. You're sitting on that airliner going, man, could I step up and be the hero if everything hits the fan and that flight attendant comes on and says, are there any pilots on board? Could I be that guy? Well, guys, that situation actually happened to this gentleman. Granted, it was a King Air 200, but talk about having everything on the line with your wife and kids on board, and you've got just a private pilot certificate in a few hours. And you'll be able to listen. Again, it's audio with a little bit of text, but again, I don't imagine it's going to match up perfectly just yet. You'll be able to listen to how he interacts with the controllers. It's just a really neat scenario to kind of play out. So I'm going to mute my mic. We're going to play this video. This video is roughly about 8 minutes long, but it'll have you laughing. But as funny as it is, with the exception of the gentleman dying, as funny as it is, just take a few mental notes on how this situation is handled. Let's go ahead and I'm going to play that clip for you real quick. We're listening for Niner Delta Whiskey is our guy. You'll hear him here in just a second.
4-4, Quebec, to center, maintain 4,000. 4,000.
Miami Center, King Air 559 Delta Whiskey.
559 Delta Whiskey, Miami Center, here's your loud and clear, how me?
I got declared emergency. My pilot is unconscious. I need help up here.
559 Delta Whiskey, Roger, and Samoa. From ours approach, from ours low, 724 line.
From ours approach, from ours low.
From ours approach, from ours low, 724 line emergency. 4 line. 559 Delta Whiskey is an unconscious pilot. He needs help. Do you want me to put him back on you?
Where's he going?
He's just him up. 559 Delta Whiskey, sir, you catch it.
I need to get this thing on the ground. I'm flying a King Air.
559 Delta Whiskey, I understand. Are you a pilot unconscious?
My pilot's deceased. I'm a single-handed pilot, low time, Miami 49. I need help. I need a King Air pilot to talk to.
All right, all aircraft standby. 559 Delta Whiskey. And are you at the cockpit now?
I am co-pilot 6. Get him out.
Air 9 Delta Whiskey, understand you are able to fly an aircraft?
Single engine, I need to get off this. I'm going through 11,000. I need to get level.
Air 9 Delta Whiskey, go ahead and level off at 1,000.
I will do that with upset this autopilot.
Air 9 Delta Whiskey, roger. 461, contact Miami approach 133.77.
3377, 461.
American 2234, contact Miami approach 120.5.
20.5, or 2234.
Launcher 108, just want to maintain 8,000, next ride down.
Hurry down to 8,000, via 108.
Eagle, Air 9 Delta Whiskey, are you able to maintain 12,000?
Well, do I turn off the altimeter or not? It's steady climbing, and but it looks to me like my altitude descent is on 10,000. I don't know why I keep going climbing. Figure out how to level off.
And November 9 Delta Whiskey, okay, and you think the autopilot is on?
I know it's on.
And or 9 Delta Whiskey, all right, can you tell what altitude it says it's going to climb to?
The altitude said is 10,000, but I'm going through 13 now. It should have leveled off at 10, so how do I stop that is what I want to know.
559 Delta Whiskey only, and understand, so we're trying to find some help out here, and you're still on a climb?
Still climbing through 14,000. I can turn my altitude set to 15. Maybe that'll stop it.
You said it's set at 15,000?
It's set at 10,000. 10,000, but it went through that. So I need to, if I set it to 16,000, will it level off or not under altitude set? 9 Delta Whiskey.
All right, November 9 Delta Whiskey. Okay, I understand you're going to be leveling off at 15,000. Is that what you're showing on the autopilot?
No, autopilot once again says 10,000. I've already busted 10,000. I'm steady climbing. I need to stop the climb. Stay with me, Miami. Let's go.
So 559 Delta Whiskey, I'm here. Don't worry. We're trying to find a solution to that. Stand by.
For me on the 50. Okay, number 5, Delta Whiskey. When you look at the center console there, you don't see anything with the, you see the autopilot unable to disengage.
I don't know. I know where the autopilot switch is down here. It's on engage right now. I can engage it if you disengage it.
Number 5 Delta Whiskey. Disengage the autopilot. We're gonna have you hand fly the plane.
All right. Do you want me to disengage the autopilot?
Number 5 Delta Whiskey. Affirmative. Disengage the autopilot.
Disengaging autopilot. I need to pull back on the throttle some, correct?
Number 5 Delta Whiskey. Native, you can hold the yoke. You got are you holding the yoke now, level?
Yeah, I can disengage the autopilot right now.
Okay, hold the yoke level, disengage the autopilot.
Say again?
Hold the yoke level and disengage the autopilot, number 5 Delta Whiskey.
I disengaged it. I'm flying the airplane by hand.
Okay, number 5 Delta Whiskey. And can you try my showing you now, 17,000.
You find me the longest, widest runway you can, ma'am.
Number 5 Delta Whiskey, Roger. I'm going to try to keep you hold the plane level. You're doing pretty good, 17,000. You want to try to hold the plane now at 17,000.
All right, 17.3 right now.
Number 5 Delta Whiskey, Roger. Okay, number 9 Delta Whiskey. Just so you know what we're doing here, we're going to get you down to 11,000. We're going to make you give you a turn to the west. We're going to hand you off to Fort Myers Approach, and they've got some controllers there that also have pilot experience, and they're going to talk you all the way in down to the landing there. Do you have any experience in a King Air?
Negative.
9 number 5 Delta Whiskey, you're doing a real good job. Just keep you doing a very good holding your heading, a real nice descent there.
You got me heading almost due north.
Number 5 Delta Whiskey, affirmative. I just didn't want to turn you while you're descending. If you're comfortable with that, I'll give you a turn out to the west while you're descending. That's up to you. Would you like to continue straight during the descent or make a turn with the descent?
I can make a turn with the descent. I don't need any weather up here right now either, ma'am.
Okay, I'm not showing any weather on my radar here, but I only show precipitation. But let me just make sure I confirm what you said. You said you'd like to make a turn to the left while you're descending?
I can do that.
Okay, number 5 Delta Whiskey, just a nice, easy turn to the left, whatever you're comfortable, real shallow, real gentle on the controls. You're going to turn left, fly a heading of about a 270 heading, and continue that descent down to 11,000, whatever you're comfortable with.
Left 270 down to 11,000, King Air 9 Delta Whiskey.
Number 9 Delta Whiskey, affirmative.
949, 2215.
All right, number 9 Delta Whiskey, you got any questions about what you're doing right now? Are you okay?
Yeah, we're great. 9 Delta Whiskey, thank you.
On that heading, you're doing well, and we'll level. It looks like you're just about level at 11,000 there, holding it well. And now, if you can, it's going to be 132.07.
Would I push 2 to change that frequency?
If you do have it set up in the second radio, sir?
I do.
Yep, you would switch to. So what I'm going to do, number 5 Delta Whiskey, is contact Fort Myers approach 132.07 by pushing 2. If you do not get them, just switch it again, and you'll be talking to me.
Thanks.
Number 5 Delta Whiskey, all right.
King Air 559er Delta Whiskey, Fort Myers approach, John.
Fort Myers Center, King Air 559er Delta Whiskey.
King Air 559er Delta Whiskey, Fort Myers approach. And are you in the descent right now, sir?
I am. What you want me to do is hold it or what?
Actually, if you can, we can just start a descent down to 5,000, and we're getting some help from another pilot that's familiar with the airplane. We'll get you some information. Can you descend the airplane?
I can, down to 5,000 on heading 270. This is a King Air 200.
King Air 9 Delta Whiskey, Roger. We're passing that information now. If you're able, fly heading 240 and descend and maintain 5,000. Just take your time. We'll set you up for the airport.
All right, 240 to 5,000, 9 Delta Whiskey.
And November 9 Delta Whiskey, are you using the autopilot or are you flying the airplane?
Me and the good Lord hand flying this 9 Delta Whiskey.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
So he and the good Lord are hand flying that airplane, as you guys can see. And hopefully that audio played pretty well for you guys. I think, I know it's a little bit echoey, so I was trying to kind of adjust it as we were talking. But it's such an interesting situation to find yourself in. And, you know, we have the a bit of a comic relief from, you know, the gentleman himself. I mean, he has moments of brilliance on the radios. Where he's affirmative, 9 Delta Whiskey. He sounds like a King Air pilot. And other times he's getting on him, you know, hey, stay with me, Miami. And he's yelling at him and everything else. It's just one of my favorite clips to share. But it really, it's not as far-fetched and crazy as it may sound, guys. We have to always plan and always be prepared for the unexpected, you know, whatever that situation may be, you know, in that case. So planning for the unexpected. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that clip. The airplane does end up land safely and everything ends up being A-okay. And the whole clip itself is about 23 minutes long. It's inside the Inflight Emergencies book. You guys can check out as well if you're really curious to see all that. But planning for the unexpected, guys. Not as crazy, not as far-fetched as that can go. So anyway, so that's planning for the unexpected, guys. Let's share one more thing here. Let's go back to the engine failure sort of thing. And I want to talk about an engine failure on takeoff. If you guys have any questions on the last clip, we'll kind of take them here at the end. I want to keep moving forward so we don't go over too terribly long, because I really, really you know, want to spend some time on this engine failure on takeoff stuff. An engine failure on takeoff is really a situation that I don't want to find myself in. Like I shared at the very beginning, I'm low, I'm slow, I'm in a high angle of attack, and now you're going to take my only source of power and thrust away from me in that airplane. That is not an exciting situation, again, that I want to find myself in. There's two possibilities with this. There is with runway remaining, Now, that really, to me, is the preferred situation, that with runway remaining. It could be as simple as I'm rolling down the runway and the engine quits, and I just pull off onto a taxiway. It could be the engine quits and I'm at about 100 feet and I put it back down on that same runway. Real quick question. Has anyone here ever practiced an engine failure on takeoff with runway remaining? By that I mean you go out, you find, like in our last clip, the longest, widest runway you can. You take off, you get to about 100 feet, you pull that power back to idle, and you land back down that same piece of pavement. Has anybody ever done that? Cool. Yeah, cool, Kyle. Cool. Awesome, Conley. Awesome, David. Jeffrey. Awesome. Steve, yep. Same boat with me, my friend. That's exactly where I learned it as well. For those of you that have done that, what did you notice? The moment that power, your instructor brought that power back to idle, what was the very first thing you noticed in that situation? Just took off, I get to about 100 feet, I pull that power back to idle. What is the very first thing you notice? David, you said it best. David said, the plane drops. Yeah, I think you're spot on with that. One thing I notice, the moment you bring that power back is, before you know it, the stall warning horn is on. That airplane is falling from the sky, and you would be amazed at how much yoke forward pressure you have to put to get that nose down. You literally have to push that yoke forward so much that you're almost doing like a parabolic arc where your butt kind of leaves the seat for a second, pushing that yoke down so much. Guys, I encourage you to try this. Now, my stipulation is I want you to go out and practice this with an instructor on the longest, widest runway you can. Let ATC or whoever's around know what you're doing so they know. But literally, take off, get to 50 feet, get to 100 feet, smoothly bring that throttle back to idle. You will be amazed at two things. Number one, how quickly that stall warning horn comes on. And number two, how much nose down force it needs. It is not as easy of a situation as you may think. And then, by the way, like what Manuel brought up, is don't forget about the flaps. Well, you're going to nose down. You're going to pick up airspeed doing that, and you could be running out of runway now. So now you might have to be adding in flaps, nose down, add in flaps just to slow down. But then adding in flaps is going to cause you to possibly balloon up a little bit. There's so many variables, and I encourage you guys to practice this situation, because if I had an engine failure on takeoff, this is my preferred situation with runway remaining, right? This is why I never, ever will take an intersection departure. I don't care what airport I'm at. I don't care how much the controller may beg me. I want full length. I may only fly a Cessna 150 or 172, but when I go to the Ocala airport, which is about 8,000 feet, I taxi all the way down to the end of that displaced threshold. And the tower always says, hey, 12 Romeo, well, you can take off at Alpha 8 if you'd like. And I always say, no thanks. I'll go all the way down to Alpha 11 and take full length. Thank you, though. Runway behind me does me no good. And if I departed from Alpha 8, which leaves about, literally, it leaves a good 700-800 feet of runway behind me, and I have an engine failure on takeoff, and I miss the runway by, 600 or 700 feet, I'm going to be really upset, because that was my decision. I don't take intersection departures anymore. I take full length. I want to use every bit of that runway. My philosophy is they paved all that runway for a reason, and you know what? I'm going to use every bit of it. So with runway remaining. The other situation is this, guys, and it's without runway remaining. And this is the least, of all the in-flight emergencies, this is the one I least would want to deal with. I just took off. I'm out of what's called usable runway, and the engine quits. What do you do in this case? Well, critics and the FAA have grown to call this what's called the impossible turn. Now, a name like impossible turn that's a pretty strong name. The word impossible is a very strong word, and they give it to you for a reason. Guys, this is what I teach. And I'm talking in terms of AGL here, all right? If I am below 1,000 feet AGL, I'm going straight ahead. I am never going to attempt a turn back to the runway below 1,000 feet AGL. I'm going straight ahead. They call it the impossible turn for a reason. And here's why. A lot of people say, it's no big deal. I'll just make a turn back around and land. I'll make a 180-degree turn back around and land, right? Well, picture this. Guys, it's more than just a 180-degree turn. If I just turn 180 degrees, that just puts me on a downwind for the runway. I've really got to turn about 230 degrees to be coming back towards the runway. And then I've got to turn out another 30, 40, 50 degrees to straighten back out once I get it. I'm really making two turns. And one thing we know about turns is in a turn, one wing is producing more lift than the other. You've increased your horizontal component of lift on one wing more than the other, thus decreasing your overall lift. I'm low, I'm slow, I'm at a high angle of attack. Why would I want to enter into a turn and cause one wing to produce more lift than the other? That is a stall spin scenario if you ever asked for one, because you have to push that nose down so much to maintain that positive airflow that you're going to lose too much altitude. So below 1,000 feet AGL, you're going straight ahead because you're not just making a 180-degree turn. You're making more like a 200, 210-degree turn than having to turn back those extra 30 degrees to line up with the runway again. Are you following me? Now, when I say straight ahead, what I really mean is you've got about 30 degrees either side. Straight ahead, 30 degrees to my left, 30 degrees to my right. You got a 60-degree window, and that's where you're landing the airplane. I make all my students, when we fly out of the Denell and Marion County Airport, off of each runway, they know already where they're going if they have an engine failure on takeoff. For example, if we have an engine failure off of runway 28, they're going to sidestep just a hair bit to the left. There's a road with no power lines called 484, and that's where they're going. Whereas if we depart, they know if we depart off of runway 5, well, once you get over the trees off runway 5, there's a beautiful field right to your left. And they know where they're going. We've already predetermined everything. Below 1,000 feet AGL, you're going straight ahead. Now, if you're above 1,000 feet AGL, you could attempt to turn back. Now listen, that is a very generic statement because every airplane is different. This is what I want you to do. I want you with an instructor, please, go up. And I want you to climb 3,000, 4,000, let's say at least 5,000 feet. This obviously has to be a fairly clear day to get up there. So I want you to climb to at least 5,500 feet. And I want you to treat, we'll use an even number so it's easier on my brain here. Let's say 5,000 feet. I want you to treat 5,000 feet as if it were the ground. So we're going to level at 5,000 feet. And I want you to kind of slow that airplane down a little bit to whatever your rotation speed is. My rotation speed is about 60. So I'm going to slow that airplane down to 60. And then I'm going to smoothly apply full power and I'm going to start my climb. And I'm going to climb and I'm going to climb and I'm going to climb. And then when I get to, let's say, 1,100 feet, 6,100 feet, in this case, I'm going to pull that power back to idle, simulate my engine just quit, and I'm going to attempt to make that turn back around. Just about 230, 220 degrees back around, and then another 30 degree or so turn back to the right to get to my original heading. And watch how much altitude you've lost. I bet you've blazed through 1,000 feet. And now you know that, hey, listen, I know Jason said below 1,000 feet AGL, you're going straight ahead. But for me and my airplane, it's more like 1,500 feet. Trust me, I've tested it kind of thing. I want you guys to go out and try something like that. Below 1,000 feet AGL, you're going straight ahead. Now that varies from aircraft to aircraft, of course. All right. So now I want to show you guys one more video real quick. This is a video of a gentleman. This was AOPA first released this quite a while ago. You can see the timestamp on the video as well. This gentleman is flying a Mooney. I'm not sure the airport. It's snowy on the ground, though, that's for sure. It's certainly not Florida. Just departed, and he got to just shy of 2,000 feet. I believe he was around 1,800 to 1,900 feet, and the engine quit. And I want you guys to see this situation. I want you to see the steep turn he had to make, the two turns he had to make. I want you to hear these horrendous sounds the engine is making in this case. And just watch this clip real quick. He literally just took off. This clip's a little bit quiet, so you can turn up your volume on this, but turn your volume back down when I come back on. The audio is not super important. What I want you to see is the crazy turns this guy is making from roughly about 2,000 feet. And he has the opposite problem in this case. He almost uses too much runway. I'll mute my mic and let's play this clip real quick.
Was coming back. Something was going wrong with the engine. He just wasn't on to it. We'll just pull it down wherever we can. Can you hear me? I can hear you. Nice job, dude. You need assistance now?
Is that crazy or what? You could hear the horrendous sounds the engine was making. The gear warning horn is blaring. The stall warning horn is blaring. Everything's going off. That gentleman had to make more like 3 turns in that case. The one big turnaround, then tried to turn back to the runway, and it kind of got overshot a little bit because all that inertia of having that nose down, that glide is pulling him through that turn, causing him to really blow through what I guess you would call final there, and ended up making 3 turns in that case. And then, by the way, still almost ate up too much runway. You saw how aggressive his approach was back in that runway. He did a great job. I mean, don't get me wrong. It was just him on board. The airplane's very light. You're going to carry a little bit. I understand that. Plus, it was a long runway. So straight ahead wasn't so much an option. It was out of usable. Made the call to make a turn back and made a decent call in that case. But I showcased this video to show you how difficult that turn is, how steep that turn is, how quickly, I mean, that video was maybe but a minute 30, how quickly you go from 2,000 feet back down to the ground like it's nothing. That's what I wanted to show you guys, okay? It's called the impossible turn for a reason. And that's what I want to share with you guys. So, guys, real quick recap. And then we're going to kind of wrap this thing up here. The ABCs of an emergency. Anybody remember what they are? The ABCs of an emergency. My engine quits in flight. What are my ABCs and what am I going to actually execute on? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, Philip. John, hey, John. Yeah, spot on. ABCs. My A is for my airspeed. What is my glide speed and trim for it, most importantly? B is my best landing area. Keeping in mind, my best landing area might be behind me or below me. And lastly, C is my checklist. That, of course, is time permitting. Do a flow checklist. Verify it with the paper checklist if you have time, but operate on the principle of I am about to make the most important landing of my life. When all else fails, fly the airplane. Always be prepared for the unexpected, guys, in each and every situation. You may be flying with a friend in a new airplane, and who knows? You have to be prepared at all times. And lastly, never attempt a turn back, guys, below 1,000 feet AGL. And that's like the minimum. That's flying a Cessna 150 with STOL wingtips and 40 degrees of flaps. What is it for your airplane? Well, you're going to have to find that out. And I encourage you guys to do that 5,000 foot test, like I shared with you, to really learn more about your aircraft. But never attempt to turn back below 1,000 feet AGL. So guys, I really hope you enjoyed this. And, I really hope you all enjoyed this entire Underground Aviation Seminar 2013. This has just been so successful for us. It's certainly something everyone's asking, when are the next ones? When are we going to do more? Obviously, with my online ground school members, we do one every Monday night. You guys will be able to check out. So I'm excited, especially all the new guys. I'm excited for this coming Monday to learn more about you guys. It's a much smaller group. It's a much more kind of intimate group. We all, get a chance to kind of learn more about each other and interact. It's not as big as this, so that'll be good. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. I do plan on, though, in 2014, doing some more webinars like this for you guys. But before I open up for questions, guys, I want to make my my free offer to you again here. Tonight is the last night. Literally, tonight at midnight, this ends. Tonight is the last night that I am giving away all of my books. Just to recap the books: the Pass Your Private Pilot Check Ride 2.0, ebook and audiobook. Dump it on your Android, your iPhone, whatever you have, and listen to it as I ask a question. Pause, let you think of the answer in your head, and then give you the proper answer. Everything is actual check ride questions. Listen, you may already be a private pilot, or you may already be the sequel, Pass Your Instrument Pilot Check Ride. You may already be an instrument pilot, but isn't a good pilot always learning? I know instrument pilots who still go back and listen to this sort of stuff just to stay up to date on everything. You get the Secret to Perfect Landings book, which is just basically a video version of my first seminar I did, the Secret to Perfect Landings seminar I did on Tuesday. You get the book Inflight Emergencies. I share with you just really 3 situations in this. There's dozens of situations, more great videos, interviews with the pilots of these emergencies you saw, all inside the In-Flight Emergencies book. The Pilot's Handbook of Aeronautical Knowledge, the Airplane Flying Handbook that I've been very blessed to rewrite with the permission of the FAA and help from them. My Aviation Acronyms book, as if we don't have enough acronyms, I break them all down for you. And the FAR-AIM in Plain English, which is an evergreen edition. It never expires. Once you have it, I will email you any changes, any updates, when and if regulations change. I break down every single regulation to plain conversational English as it relates to your private and your sport pilot certificate. It's a total value of $291, and it's free to all my online ground school members. In fact, online ground school members, Pilots Inner Circle members, Ashley, literally, if you don't have the link to download that just yet, Ashley actually just made, when you first log in, you land on the welcome page. There's a link right there on the welcome page, right when you log in. Guys, if you're not a member yet, if you sign up tonight before midnight, you will be able to get those books. This offer goes away tonight, midnight East Coast time. Visit groundschoolacademy.com to learn more and sign up. This offer is good whether you sign up for the Pilots Inner Circle, which is geared more towards individuals who are already pilots but want to live out that good pilot is always learning kind of mantra. It is the #1 rated online ground school. Very, very proud, very, very blessed to be able to say that. Members inside get both, for one price, get both private and instrument pilot ground schools. Over 400 iPad and mobile-friendly HD videos, weekly live webinars. If you enjoyed this webinar I'm doing right now, you're going to love the weekly webinars I do every Monday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. I do monthly live mock check rides. Actual check ride questions. I ask them. You provide your best answers. We work to formulate that and help you as you approach your check ride. I did a written test prep boot camp, like a 3-day boot camp that you're going to get access to for private and instrument pilot. Customized written test prep. By that, I mean the questions tailor themselves to you. If you're weak on airspace, you're going to see more airspace questions. The system knows that. My Check Ride Secrets video series, where we interviewed an actual DPE and found out what do check ride examiners want to see on a check ride. You get private mentorship from myself and the stellar CFIs that help me out, Larry and Mark here at MzeroA.com. And of course, the #1 guarantee literally in the industry, which is pass your check ride or I'll pay for it. A guarantee I've never had to redeem because we have a 100% check ride pass rate guarantee with that. So guys, the URL for that is groundschoolacademy.com. Literally, if you become a member, you've got to do it before midnight tonight. You're going to get all 8 of my books in ebook format and they're yours. But that offer ends tonight at midnight for that. So I'll stop dwelling on that. We're going to open it up for Q&A if you have any questions. Groundschoolacademy.com. Again, any membership level, Pilots Inner Circle members get the same deal. That is geared more towards, though, individuals who are already pilots. You earn FAA wings credits. You get access to my radio shows. You get access to the webinars. Or you can, if you're looking for more private or an instrument pilot ground school, or maybe you just want to catch up and refresh on some private and some instrument stuff. If you love my free videos, if you love these free webinars, you're going to love the stuff inside the ground school. So go check out groundschoolacademy.com, click on Become a Member, and get access to that so you can sign up for that great book deal, which ends literally, guys, in less than 2 hours. So you got some time to sign up for that. I would do it sooner rather than later. Guys, I'm going to take some questions now. You can type in your questions inside that handy dandy GoToWebinar control panel, and we'll take all those questions now. By the way, Larry and Mark, thank you so much for all your help, guys. If you have to jet, I know you're both early risers. Feel free to do so. I can handle these last little bit of questions here. Let's see. Start with this. Brent said, great 3-day series. Looking forward to more. Merry Christmas to the whole crew. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that, man. Philip, you've got plenty of time, my friend. Once you're in, man. You're good to go. Let's see. Oh, yeah. Robert brought up a great point. He wanted to know more about the emergency descent, which is new on the PTS, which I need to do a video on. It's on my bucket list of things to do, which basically says, I previously called it a steep spiral, which is a commercial pilot maneuver. An emergency descent, as per the new PTS, basically says, if I need to get down, I smoothly bring the power back to idle. I enter into just about a 60-degree bank and begin to literally spiral over my point and spiral down to it. This doesn't make total sense to me, all right? I operate on the principle of I'm about to make the most important landing of my life. Why would I want to spiral down and make myself super dizzy? Trust me, I've done plenty of these. This is the best part. When the FAA came out with this, they said, yes, we're going to add emergency descent to the PTS because it's important for a private pilot to know how to get a sick passenger on the ground as quickly as possible. I thought to myself, if I've got a sick passenger, the last thing I'm going to do is chop the power, put it in a 60-degree bank, and start spiraling down. That doesn't sound like a very good idea at all to me. But you know what? Who am I to argue with the FAA? That's basically what they're talking about, Robert. And Robert, I'm going to expedite that video up for you and hopefully have that up in January, man. That's a genius idea. It's on my bucket list. I just haven't had the time to go out there and shoot it and get all that done. All I need to do is climb up really high and spiral down and talk about it. So I will get that out for you, Robert, so you can check this out. Lori, hey, Lori. Lori asked, how does this apply to Canadian pilots? We had just a member sign up from Australia. A few from Europe. Just this week alone, we have students from South Africa, all over Europe. We have plenty of members from Canada. Lori, this is all geared towards FAA flying, keep in mind. But my pitch to you is this. The raw skill of flying doesn't change. But what will change are things like regulations. But what you'll find is between FAA, et cetera, the regulations are just about the same. There's very few differences there. Things like aerodynamics, things like landings, things like steep turns don't change. That's the same all across the world. The only few nuances and differences are regulations in that case. So absolutely, it still applies and it's still applicable to you. Yep, Johnny. Yeah, you're taken care of, my friend. Don't worry, don't worry. Let's see. Conley, hey Conley. He said, Jason, I must say I've truly enjoyed myself, and more importantly, I learned. Thank you, thank you. I've been a pilot since '98, and I can't get enough of this flying stuff. Always looking for to better my piloting skills. Cool. Yeah, sign up for the inner circle. I appreciate that, man. Thank you so much. And yeah, we will speak a little bit later. Yeah, man, I'm looking forward to that, Conley. That is great. Great. Paul, hey Paul. Paul said, is there a rule of thumb to assist in making a good decision to whether there's actually enough runway ahead on an engine out on takeoff? Yeah, there certainly is. What I like to use is the phrase usable runway. And you've got to get to a point where you are committed to that takeoff and you are committed to going ahead with landing straight ahead. You know, if I'm taking off of a little strip, and you'll trust me, you'll know what out of usable runway looks like. Basically, once I lose that runway underneath my nose, my friend, that runway is no longer usable. That's my basic rule of thumb, and I'm going straight ahead. And hopefully I've got enough to, clear the trees, because I'm certainly not turning back, if that makes sense for you, Paul. But the term is out of usable runway. And if you ever get to fly a complex airplane, that's when you bring the gear up. When you're out of what's called usable runway, you bring the gear up, because you want to leave the gear down just in case you have an engine failure on takeoff and there's still runway to use. You can land with the gear down straight ahead. Pretty cool. Philip asked, is it better to use Firefox or Internet Explorer for the website? I am a Google Chrome guy myself, so I'm probably a bad one to ask with that. It works great on both. Ashley is the web design guru that helps us with everything. So it's your preference, Philip, whichever's going to be, whichever you prefer. How about that? Let's see. Doug, great question. Doug said, could you explain a little bit more about earning wings credits via the Pilot's Inner Circle and what wings credits get us? Doug, cool. Doug, wings credits are sort of like CEUs, like in work. You have to have CEUs, continuing education units. Well, the FAA came up with these things called wings credits. And you can earn wings credits and actually push back your biannual flight review by earning these wings credits. So as you earn credits, you continue to push those 24 calendar months that you need to do a flight review further and further into the future, effectively. Now, these wings credits also, Doug, go on your FAA record. So let's give an example. Let's say, Doug, or maybe I won't use Doug as an example. Let's just say we're flying along and we do something really stupid. We bust some airspace, and don't talk to me. We accidentally fly through some restricted airspace and we get in some hot water. And the FAA is saying, listen, Jason, you're going to possibly face a 90-day suspension for busting that airspace. But what's the first thing they're going to do is they're going to go pull your record. And they're going to look at your record and go, whoa, Jason earns like 2 or 3 wings credits every month. This guy is he's using the wings program for what we want, living out that mantra that a good pilot is always learning. Think of it like feathers in your cap as well, because it goes on your permanent record with the FAA. Now, this is not proven, only because I've never tested it. I've never had to test it, thankfully. But if you get, you have an accident or an incident or just an airspace violation with the FAA, and you've got these wings credits that you can argue, listen, I am a good pilot. I am constantly working to better myself. Yes, I made a mistake. I've learned from it, and I learned from everything. You can use them for that purpose as well. But what they're actually used for is pushing that flight review back. And it's just kind of nice to have that sort of stuff on my FAA permanent record that, yeah, I am a good pilot and I'm always learning something. I didn't just get my pilot's license and stop learning, if you're following me with that. Let's see. Kyle, yeah, we talked about that a little bit. I don't know if you missed. No, you couldn't. You probably heard that, Kyle, about that. Lori asked, will I get an email on how to get the recordings? I missed much this week because I worked late all week. Yeah, no big deal, Lori. They're up on YouTube, but I will be sending, probably tomorrow, I will send an email out with all the recordings to everybody for you guys to check out that as well. But they are up there as well. So you'll be able to check all that sort of stuff out. So that will be cool. Let me do something here really quick. Let me make sure so my audio is good here. Okay. Let's see. Robert. Robert, looks like Larry answered your question there. It's the same thing I'd give you. Same answer I gave you. Michael, I don't know just yet. Michael asked, what's the word on the third class medical? Are they doing away with it? Michael, one thing you've got to realize about the FAA is they're very slow to move with anything. They'll talk about stuff a lot, but they're, God, this is going to sound bad. With any government organization, it takes a long time to take action on sort of stuff. So, for example, with the FAA written test, my friend, you could go out tomorrow and take an instrument pilot written test, and they're going to quiz you on microwave landing systems, which is a technology that was discontinued in 1994. However, it still haunts instrument pilot written tests, just to kind of give you an idea of their snail's pace. So they've talked about getting rid of that one, but it's still in the question bank. So that is that. Lori, yeah, the same guarantee stands for everybody, no matter where you're based. Lori was asking if the guarantee that pass your check right or I'll pay for it guarantee applies to Canadian pilots. Absolutely, same guarantee applies to you, Lori, just as it does to everybody else. Kenneth, hey Kenneth, said appreciate all the great content you guys put out. Kenneth, I appreciate you taking in all that great content and really living out that good pilot is always learning mantra, my friend. That really means a lot. So let's see, guys. And if I'm kind of behind on questions here. This last question was stamped 1014, and it's like 1021. So I'm a little bit behind on questions. If I don't get your question, just paste it again, and I'll try to get that. So yeah, Lori, absolutely. I think something like that would be perfect for you, at least to check out. Cool. Paul, hey Paul. Paul said thank you and Merry Christmas from Columbia, Missouri. Keep up the good work. Paul, thanks, man. That means a lot. I really appreciate it. Johnny said, super awesome webinar, Jason. I'll see you in the online ground school. Looking forward to it, Johnny. We'll be chatting more Monday evening. So that will be great. Let's see. Wade, hey Wade. Wade said, my flight instructor was showing me secondary stalls that students accidentally do to their instructor. Yeah, it sure does happen. You're right, Wade. But I have no idea how you could get into these just from common sense. I appreciate everything that MzeroA has helped me out with. Happy holidays and New Year. You as well, Wade. Secondary stalls, man, are a very real thing. Again, it's very easy to demonstrate and go, how could anybody do this? But you would be amazed that in a stall, when an airplane stalls and it's braking very abruptly and you're falling from the sky, the natural tendency is to pull the airplane back some more and literally enter into another stall. The same is true like in a spin. The spin breaks to the left. The natural tendency is to take the yoke to the right, which is the exact opposite thing you want to do. In fact, that actually aggravates the stall, aggravates the spin even more. We as pilots do some crazy things sometimes that do lead to secondary stalls and making the current stalls we're in more aggravated, even worse in that case. Terry, hey Terry, he said, Jason, for us without Apple, is Good Pilot Magazine available for Windows and Microsoft plus all your books? Terry, for all the books, absolutely. Like this book deal that I'm talking about now. When you get all those books for signing up on groundschoolacademy.com and clicking become a member, Terry, they're all PDFs. So if you can open a PDF, you're covered. So that'll be fine. As far as Good Pilot Magazine goes, I am currently working on getting it in the Android platforms and getting it out to some more Windows platforms as well, and possibly just bringing it out as a PDF. The Apple way was just easy to go. and we're working on branching that out a little bit more. And if you guys don't know, again, Good Pilot Magazine is the #1 free app in professional and trade in the Apple newsstand. If you just go to your iTunes store and search for Good Pilot Magazine, another great free resource that we're delivering to you guys to help you be safer, smarter pilots. Let's see. Shane, hey Shane, he said, I joined Pilots Inner Circle. Can I upgrade my membership to include ground school? Absolutely you can, Shane. And the best way to do that would be just shoot me an email or shoot Ashley an email, and you have both those emails probably. I'm just Jason at MzeroA.com. Just shoot me an email or reply any emails I send to you or any of the webinar emails. You just hit reply to, and it'll go to one of us. And we can make that adjustment for you if that's something you'd like to do. I'd be more than happy to do that. So let's see. John, hey John, he said, I have to share this with you. On October 23rd, 2012, I did my solo. I did 3 other solos to practice. On the 2nd November was my 66th birthday. Awesome. My instructor said, just go fly, have some fun. I was doing just that, and my engine sputtered and lost power. No way. I couldn't climb, but had power. You can imagine the fear that took over, but I remembered what he said about flying the airplane. That's what I did and limped back to the airport. It was exciting to say the least. Half the engine had gone out. Thing is, I kept my cool, flew the airplane. I finished and have my private. Thanks so much for these valuable webinars. Wow, John. Great job on handling that situation. And I'll tell you, I used to be the traffic pilot up in Jacksonville. And I made a decision that I was going to move back to my hometown of Ocala. And I had some other pilots that were going to be taking over that traffic job for me. And literally, the day I left, that morning when the guys went out to fly traffic, they blew had a cylinder give on takeoff. And had to do the same thing, limp back to the airport very violently as the airplane was shaking, as only 3 of the 4 cylinders were working. I'm thinking, man, that was supposed to be me flying that morning. Crazy to think about. But yeah, you're exactly right. John asked, Jason, from a CFI perspective, when would be the best time to introduce emergency procedures to students? John, this is how I like to do it. I like to do it earlier. I'm a big fan of getting students, immersed very early on this sort of stuff. So what I like to do, usually around the, really probably the 4th or 5th lesson, we're out in the practice area. We did our steep turns. Maybe we did some slow flight. Maybe I showed them a stall, and maybe we're going to do some ground reference maneuvers. Well, I never waste a good reason to descend down a few thousand feet. So what I do is I say, hey, look, we're going to simulate an engine failure. And I explain everything in great detail. A lot of times I found early on when I told students we're going to simulate an engine failure, they said, you mean we're going to turn the engine off? I said, no, we're not going to turn so explain it to them. What I mean is, listen, we're going to simulate an engine failure. I'm going to bring the power all the way back to idle. The engine's still going to be running. It's no big deal. We can even give the engine a few clearing bursts to make sure everything's still working. But I just want to show you, number one, that this airplane glides. If we lost an engine, we just become an expensive glider, and there's nothing to worry about. I want to raise their comfort level is what I want to do. And you could say, listen, I'm going to show you everything. I'm going to show you how I trim for my airspeed. I'm going to show you how I pick a landing area. I'm going to show you about how far we can glide. I'm going to show you how we do our emergency checklist. And you just sit back and relax for a second, and let me show you the capabilities of our aircraft. That's a great way to introduce it. Same is true with stalls. Stalls and emergency procedures are scary for first-time students. Be very delicate dancing around those topics and be very choicey with the words you use, and never just throw somebody to the wolves, okay? That's not a cool thing to do. Work them into each and every situation. Let's see. Caleb brought up a great point. He said, Jason, is it ever appropriate to go below or above my best glide speed if you know you have the runway made? Absolutely, Caleb. I operate on the principle of it's much easier to lose altitude than it is to gain altitude in that situation. So if I know that I've got that field made, Caleb, I'm going to dump in some flaps. If I need to really get down, I could have done a slip a little ways back. I could dump in some more flaps. I could do maybe some S turns to help me kind of lose some altitude and some airspeed a little bit more. Absolutely. But Caleb, always remember that it's much easier to lose altitude than it is to get it back in that situation. All right. So that's that. Lots of questions coming in here. Still taking action on this. Let's see. Again, I see Larry and Mark got some of these questions, so I'm gonna keep moving forward to the ones that haven't gotten. Wade said, also I have the hardest time controlling my airspeed with simulated engine failures in the checklist. I'm trying to memorize that. I'm good at picking a landing spot and sticking with it. Any suggestions? Wade, trimming for airspeeds, man. Well, remember, first off, you're not necessarily trimming for an airspeed per se, Wade. You're trimming for a pitch. And that pitch is going to maintain that same airspeed. Does that make sense? So, yeah, I'm trimming and it's going to help me hold an airspeed, but wrap your brain around that I'm trimming for a sight picture outside, a nose down sight picture outside, and that's going to help me maintain my best airspeed, my best glide speed. Hopefully that makes sense. That helps, a little bit with that. Let's see, continuing through some stuff here. Robert asked, any tips on tail draggers? I was asked that same question either last night or the night before on the Secret to Perfect Landings. Again, I have my tail wheel endorsement, but I wouldn't just go out and jump in a tail dragger airplane like tonight by any means. I haven't flown one so long, I would have to go up with an instructor myself just to feel comfortable with it. So with that being said, I wouldn't feel comfortable giving you some tips on that. However, Robert, if you haven't watched the Secret to Perfect Landings webinar, which the recording is up now, you can go check that out. Everything correlates perfectly to tail wheel flying short of the touchdown. From flying the perfect pattern and everything else, that will be that. Ronald said, looking forward to a one-on-one with you in the new year. Great 3 nights. Pilot since 1969. Last current mid-70s. I learned a lot these last 3 nights. Ronald, that's awesome, man. I'm glad you learned so much, and I'm glad you're sticking with it and picking it back up, man. And I'm even more happy that you're seeking out the knowledge. That's so important, and I'm so excited to follow along with your success and watching you get back in the saddle, my friend. Andrew said wings is a good incentive to get with your instructor on a regular basis. Yeah, absolutely, Andrew, absolutely. Lori, no problem. You're very welcome. Alan said, great job. Keep up the good work and happy holidays. You as well, Alan. Merry Christmas. Thank you so much. Let's see. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Steve, I'll make that connection. I appreciate that. Steve T, that is. Let's see. Belint asked, I practiced some real engine off emergency practice landings back in Europe. I live in Canada now. I couldn't find an instructor who would do this. My question is that having the Cessna in idle or complete engine off are pretty much giving the same gliding profile. Well, here's my argument to that. A lot of people say, if the engine quit, well, the engine would be off. Am I getting the same glide ratio? Am I accurately simulating this by bringing the engine just back to idle? Well, I'll tell you what. If the engine were to quit, depending on the type, depending on how the engine quit, chances are the propeller is going to keep spinning based on the wind, the wind that's hitting it. The only way the prop would actually, remember the Mooney clip and the very first clip I showed you, the prop was spinning in both those situations. The only time the prop would stop is if you blew a rod and the engine truly seized. Now, quite honestly, if you were to have an engine failure, I would rather the engine seize and the prop actually just stop spinning, because that's creating less drag. You're actually creating more drag by having that propeller slowly spinning around. Now, it's not a significant amount. It's not like life or death amount, but it could add up to 100 feet or something along those lines as far as your gliding distance goes. So actually, Balint, by bringing that power back to idle and that causing that prop to still spin, you are decreasing your glide ratio a little bit. That's why they tell you to feather the prop in complex aircraft if you have an engine failure, because you feather that prop to reduce the drag and also stop that prop from spinning because the air is not hitting it directly. So hopefully that helps you there, my friend. Let's see. Jeffrey, thank you. Jeffrey said, just signed up. Jeffrey, I appreciate that. Thank you so much, my friend. Jim, our buddy Jim, he said, hey, Jason, are the Monday night webinars in the online ground school recorded? I work Monday nights. Is wondering how I would, if that would cause them to miss them. Yeah, Jim, they are all recorded. Literally, we've been at this thing for almost 4 years now. You can go back and watch all 4 years worth of webinars every Monday night if you want to, my friend. So the procedure is I do the webinar every Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern time. If you miss it, if you miss one, if you come in late, whatever, they're all recorded so you can go back and watch them. Everything is iPad friendly, mobile friendly as well, the webinars, so you can just go back. Listen, you could literally plug them in on your commute to work and listen to them on your commute into work the following day. So it'll really help you a lot. So very, very cool. Lori said, installing Good Pilot Magazine right now. Thanks for mentioning it. Thanks for downloading it, Lori. I really appreciate that. Jay said, thanks, Jason. Got to run. Thanks for the awesome info. We'll be joining Pilots Inner Circle. I'm a commercial rated pilot, but looking for great info to stay current. Awesome, Jay. Thank you so much. I look forward to seeing you signing up. That really means a lot. Shane said, Merry Christmas, Jason. All the best to you and your family. You as well, Merry Christmas. Thank you so much, Shane. I appreciate that. Let's see. David. Hey, David. He said, just joined the ground school. Hopefully will energize my instrument rating. I was able to navigate your website. I will. All the videos are in there. You click on private pilot or instrument pilot so you can see all of that in there, as well as the webinars and everything else. So, and I'll help you send you some more stuff here in a bit, David, as well. And David, if you'd like, you can get started on downloading all those books. You should, when you land on that welcome page, you should be able to see all that. So that is great stuff there. So let's see. Terry said, Jason, in-flight emergencies encompass other areas than engine out. Do you cover any of these anywhere else, such as bird strikes, wind shear, losing electric? Absolutely. Terry, I cover that inside the online ground school. In both private and instrument pilot, we have literally just a emergencies module. And then inside the book, In-Flight Emergencies, we talk about losing the electrical system. We talk about bird strikes, wire strikes. We talk about icing. We talk about just losing the flaps. I actually, believe it or not, you won't ever hear about this anywhere else, had a partial flap failure where, I kid you not, just one flap came down and it got stuck down. Talk about an odd situation to find yourself in, and talk about a crazy landing when just your right flap is stuck at 20 degrees, 30 degrees-ish. It was like, excuse me, I'll grab a sip real quick. It was like doing a permanent crab trying to come in and land. You'd be amazed at the amount of rudder control, the amount of rudder it took to land that airplane. That was in a 172, and the flap motor actually got jammed is what happened. Let's see. Eric asked, on the sales page, it mentions my private flight documents. So what private flight documents are you talking about when joining the gold membership? So Eric, with the documents I'm talking about, you get access to my nav log that I use, my weight and balance sort of stuff, my check ride checklist that I use, basically all the documents that my actual students get to use, my radio communications cheat sheets, that sort of stuff. Those are all in a PDF that I give to my students who come to me in Florida to fly with me. I'm giving those to my online ground school members as well, and those are in there. Lori, looks like Mark helped you out, but I'll read this real quick here. 2 questions. What about choosing a field with an engine failure night flying? That is the $1 million question, Lori. Night flying greatly limits you. Like I shared in yesterday's webinar, you'll hear when you watch the recording, Lori, is when I'm flying at night, my personal minimums go up so much that I basically need a calm, clear night to even go flying now. Because if I were to have an issue, I'm limited to roads, airports, and brightly lit areas, parking lots, that sort of stuff. But that's even dangerous. It's a very tough situation to find yourself in, Lori. And I share more about that, last night. You can listen in, with that. So very, very cool. Let's see. Lori's second part of the question was, how do you feel about using a cornfield for a forced approach with engine failure during the daylight? We don't have a whole lot of corn here in Florida, but I'd imagine that's going to tear up the airplane pretty good. But at that point, I don't even care about the airplane too much. I just care about walking away from the thing. It's going to slow you down, that's for sure. Again, I had not been around like a whole lot of corn to tell you either way, if you know how tough a corn stalk really is. I would imagine I would rather land in a full cornfield, you know what I mean, like tall, than after they've kind of chopped it down where it's just those weird stalks sticking out. Neither's a great situation to be in, but would I choose? I would choose that over trees, honestly. So hopefully that helps, Lori. Again, I'm not an expert, so hopefully that that'll help you. Kenneth said just signed up. Irv said he just signed up. Kenneth, Irv, guys, thank you so much. That really means a lot. I really appreciate that. Robert J, hey, thanks so much, man. Said thanks for the informative and entertaining webinars. Well, I appreciate that, Robert. That really means a lot. Steve said, Merry Christmas, Jason, and everyone from Steve in Oregon. Steve, you have a wonderful Christmas as well, my friend, and I really appreciate that. Thank you so much, man. Let's see. What else do I have here? Let's see. Eric said, thanks, Jason. Joining Gold membership now. I attended all 3 seminars over the last few nights and loved the review. Oh, and I did get your email. Eric, I'm still doing some research on that. So give me, I've been just so busy doing, getting ready for the webinars, preparing the webinars, doing the recordings, everything. Tomorrow will be a great day just to breathe and hopefully have a normal day tomorrow. So I'll catch up with you tomorrow with that, Eric. So great with that. Let's see. Yeah, Belinda, I think you're spot on. With that. Let's see. Oh, Lori said the audio cut out when I was giving her an answer. Oh, about the cornfields, Lori. Again, just to summarize what I said. Sorry, I'll make sure I got the mic nice and close for you. I don't know if it's your connection or maybe it's a connection on my end. Yeah, listen. As far as the cornfields go, again, like you said, they're going to absorb some energy. They're going to slow you down. I would pick cornfields over trees, of course. But then at the same time, we don't have cornfields here in Florida per se, so I don't have a lot of experience with that. I'm going to some farmer's field that has horses, here where I'm at in Florida. But what you're saying makes sense, Lori. Absolutely. So cool. Oh, cool, Paul. Very, very cool. Marvin, hey, Marvin. Like I said, great webinars. Was busy flying and missed Tuesday. We'll have to listen again this week at work. Well, make sure you're doing your work while you're listening, though, Marvin. That's all I ask. So cool. Robert asked, any thoughts to share about water landings? Yeah, Robert, I'm actually people always ask, do you choose trees or water? If that's my only options, I'm going to choose water. And again, I shared the tip, Robert, about taking your shoes off, because remember, you're not going to need your shoes to swim. In fact, having your shoes on is just going to hinder your ability to swim. So taking your shoes off, opening the door and wedging your shoe actually in the door closest to the hinge so you prop that door open. So when you do touch down the water, there's not a worry of you getting trapped in the cockpit. My biggest concern with landing in the water is, of course, depending on the type of water, if it has a swell, working with the swell, etc. Parallel to that. But more importantly, bracing myself for that landing, because I'm going to go from, 60 knots to dead stopped very, very quickly. So bracing myself for that, being buckled, being strapped in accordingly. I always thought to myself, if I was in that situation, I would obviously, lap seatbelt, tightened, shoulder harness tightened to the max, fly the airplane with one hand and like lock out my arm on the instrument panel with the other hand, because my biggest fear with the water landing is hitting my head on the instrument panel and going unconscious, when I'm in the water. That's my biggest fear with a water landing. Other than that, that is a totally survivable situation to be in, assuming you've, got the doors propped open and you can jettison yourself out of there. Quick disconnect of the seatbelt and you're out of there, man. Those are my thoughts with that. Guys, Steve brought up a great question. This is a good question, Steve. Steve said, with water landings close to shore or away from shore? It depends on the situation, Steve. And Steve, I'll use an example that you can relate to. Steve is based at the same airport. We're good friends, and Steve actually has helped me out with a lot of the children's programs I do in aviation. A very, very generous guy, very, very nice guy. And Steve and I have flown together, and I'm actually doing his flight review coming up here in a bit. So we have an airport called Cedar Key that, Steve, you've probably been to. I don't know if we ever talked about it, but you cross a little bit of water and some very kind of desolate area getting to it. And I always wonder, if I lost, and we just went to Cedar Key this week, if I lost my engine flying to Cedar Key, which is ocean, where would I land? Well, if you land close to shore, nobody lives there. It's a very desolate area, and it's all marshy swamp stuff, and it's very shallow. I don't know if that's the best route to go. In that case, there's so many boats out there fishing. I would land close to a boat. In that case, is what I would do. If it's a lake, Steve, close to shore, away from the shore, I'm going to kind of go somewhere in between. I worry about it being so shallow that I'm going to not only smack the water and slow down, but I'm also going to smack the bottom and really slow down. So that's what I'm thinking there. But, as close as I can get and still not have to worry about a depth kind of issue, Steve, like, Lake Weir, that sort of stuff, if you understand where I'm coming from, Steve, just to name some geographical stuff. Lori, I have your email, Lori. I will email you Steve's stuff and connect you guys so you can check that out. Robert said, would you turn off all electrical stuff in water to avoid getting shocked? Geez, I've never really thought of that, Robert, to be honest with you. It makes sense. I would imagine that everything would short out so quickly that probably wouldn't be, an issue. I'm going to get out of the airplane and I'm swimming away as soon as possible. I don't think that's going to be an issue, but if my brain is thinking that at the time, it probably wouldn't hurt to reach over there and turn the master switch off. I've never really thought about that. I've studied water landings quite a bit, and I've never really run across that too much. But then again, I've never really run across a lot of people who've had to ditch in water before. So, guys, I am down down to the tail end of the questions here. So if you have any questions, now is we're at the end here. So if you have a question, again, in your GoToWebinar control panel, underneath the questions tab or on the iPad or Android device, hit the little question mark there. That's how you can type those questions in. Paul said, great seminars, well done. Well, thank you, Paul. I appreciate you for checking that out. Lori said, in regard to water landings, I've always felt I should land as slow as possible, but the Cessna 172 manual says to hit the water at a 300 foot per minute descent. What would you recommend? Lori, I'm kind of with you. I want to bring that airplane as slow as possible, short of stalling the air. I certainly don't want to stall the airplane. That would be very, very bad. I want to bring the airplane in very evenly because I don't want to risk flipping the airplane. I don't want to hit the tail first or anything like that. I want to bring the airplane very evenly, but you're right, as slow as possible. Absolutely. Robert said, Merry Christmas to all. Goodbye. Robert, you have a great night, man. Thanks so much for checking all this sort of stuff out. Andreas asked a little bit more about a flat spin. Man, first off, a regular spin, we know our recovery. We use the PAR acronym, P-A-R-E. My power goes back. My ailerons remain neutral. My rudder is opposite, and my elevator goes down. P-A-R-E. Power, ailerons, rudder, elevator. Is that recovery? As far as a flat spin goes, man, that is a very difficult situation to find yourself in. It's fairly difficult to enter into a flat spin to begin with. You have to really be doing something silly. I remember when they first were coming out with the Cessna, the Skycatchers, they were having problems with entering into flat spins. That was an engineering error they've since fixed. You've got to really work hard to get yourself into a flat spin. The best thing you can do is get air flowing over those wings again. So attempting to nose down, attempting to add some power, attempting to get that airplane flying again, my friend, is the most important thing you can do. Just think, I need to get air flowing over these wings, all right? So that is that. Gary said, thanks, Jason and crew, for 3 great webinars. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. You as well, Gary. I appreciate that and look forward to working with you more in the future, my friend. Lori said, thank you very, very much. Merry Christmas to all of you. Lori, thank you so much, guys. I don't see any other questions coming in here, so I'm assuming that's it. Again, guys, my book offer, it's 10:50 local time here in Florida right now. So in an hour and 10 minutes, this book offer goes goodbye. Groundschoolacademy.com. All membership levels get it, from private Pilots Inner Circle all the way up to gold membership. Whatever membership you sign up for, you get that book deal. Once you're signed up, the books are yours. So don't think you've got to rush to download them within an hour. Don't worry about that. Once you're signed up, you're good to go. You could download the books 2 weeks from now. They're yours. Just know they're there. So don't worry about that. But the important thing is you've got to get signed up. Groundschoolacademy.com. Click on Become a Member. See which membership level works for you and where you're at in your flying. Remember, the Pilots Inner Circle is geared towards people who are already pilots, but want to live out that good pilot is always learning kind of mantra. And the bronze, silver, and gold membership levels are for my private, my instrument guys, or guys who simply just want to brush up on stuff. So that book deal is ending, guys, in an hour. Get in there and get signed up. So that is that. Kenneth, you have great holidays too. Andreas, you as well. Jamil, let's see. I heard different versions. Jamil asked, I heard different versions on the way to handle a partial power loss in flight. You need to get that airplane down on the ground as soon as possible. You need to nurse that thing back to an airport, whatever it takes in that case. Losing it on takeoff. The guys, when it happened in their situation, basically nursed it through the pattern, weren't able to climb, but were able to maintain altitude, nursed it back around for a landing, as far as that goes. So hopefully that helps you, Jamil. Andreas, you have a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year as well. Guys, that's basically it. If you guys have any more questions, you know how to get in touch with me. You can hit reply to any email I ever send to you and ask a question that way. Either myself or my lovely wife, Ashley, will be able to answer those questions, or Mark or Larry will be able to chime in with those as well. So, guys, thank you so much for all you do. Thank you so much for just being such a huge blessing to myself, my beautiful wife, and this wonderful business. Guys, anything we can do the rest of this week to help make you guys safer, smarter pilots, please, please, please don't hesitate to reach out. Again, encourage you guys, if you love this webinar, if you love the free content, you're going to love the paid content inside the Ground School Academy. one more hour to get those books bonuses. I encourage you to go to groundschoolacademy.com, click on Become a Member, and check that out. Guys, enjoy the rest of your evening, and most importantly, remember that a good pilot is always learning. Have a great night, guys. See ya.